We often talk about digital security as a wall, a hard perimeter designed to keep the world out. But modern business doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through a network of trusted attachments, and the most dangerous threats don't break the wall. They emerge from a failure of the connections we built ourselves. This is the reality of the trust economy. To scale quickly, businesses no longer build every feature from scratch. They plug into an ecosystem of third-party apps to manage everything from email marketing to global privacy compliance. We trade direct control for the speed of the plugin. Consentic was one of those tools. It's a popular Shopify app designed to solve a very specific problem, displaying the cookie consent banners required by privacy laws like GDPR. To do that job, the app needed a read permission, allowing it to see certain storefront data to ensure compliance was being tracked. These read-only API tokens are essentially a set of persistent instructions. They tell the server to grant access to specific data because the request appears to come from a verified, trusted source. But the developers left one of their data servers open to the public for over 100 days, meaning anyone who found it could use those tokens to quietly observe and record customer names, site analytics, and active Facebook ad account details. The vulnerability didn't just affect one store. It lived at the point where the app met the platform. This meant a single misconfigured server exposed the private data of more than 4,000 independent businesses simultaneously. There is a significant gap between technical fault and legal responsibility. While Shopify's internal systems remain secure, privacy frameworks like GDPR and CCPA often view the merchant as the primary data controller. If a plugin you chose to install leaks customer information, you are the one facing the regulatory fines and the mandatory breach notifications. Passive data leaks create a massive liability for a brand's reputation, but the risk profile changes entirely when a third-party app moves from simply reading data to having the authority to execute financial transactions. Disputifier was built to automate the management of credit card chargebacks. To perform that function, the app required write permissions, the administrative level of access needed to talk directly to a store's refund engine and move money. In a critical oversight, the developers included these high-privilege API tokens in the app's public-facing code. This meant anyone inspecting the source of the app's front end could copy the credentials that authorized Disputifier to issue refunds on the merchant's behalf. Once an attacker had those tokens, they didn't need to use the app's interface. They wrote an automated script to communicate directly with the API, triggering the refund command thousands of times per minute. For many merchants, the first sign of trouble was a notification that their entire Shopify balance had been liquidated. In some cases, tens of thousands of dollars in revenue were wiped out in a single overnight session. This was a total failure of guardrails. When an app is granted the power to move money autonomously, any vulnerability in that app's security becomes an instantaneous financial catastrophe for the user. This pattern of exploiting the middleman has also moved into the advertising space. A campaign of malicious Chrome extensions, often posing as AI-powered marketing tools, has been observed targeting Meta business accounts. These extensions use a technique called session hijacking. A session cookie is the digital proof of a successful login. If an attacker captures that cookie while it's still active, the system believes it is simply continuing a session that has already been verified. They can walk right past the password and the two-factor authentication prompts because the gate is already open. While pretending to be a helpful marketing tool, the extension clones those session tokens and transmits them to a remote server. This allows a threat actor to assume the identity of the account owner and access the Meta Ads Manager from a different device. Once in control, the attackers lock the real owners out and use the established credit lines to run their own fraudulent ad campaigns, often spending the entire daily budget before the business realizes they've been compromised. Sobering. Whether it's a refund script or an ad account takeover, the core mechanic is the same. The attacker exploits the trust we place in third-party tools to turn our own automated systems against us. In the wake of the Disputifier exploit, the app was delisted from the Shopify store. Affected merchants were left to comb through months of transaction records, trying to separate their legitimate customer service refunds from the thousands of fraudulent ones triggered by the script. The response shouldn't be to avoid automation, but to change how we deploy it. we have to recognize the risk of fully autonomous systems that can move money without any human intervention or approval. This starts with least privilege, strictly limiting every third-party tool to the specific data it needs. An app can analyze a transaction and flag it as fraud, but the final command to move money must halt at a human checkpoint for manual review. Securing your business means actively auditing your app permissions and rotating your API keys. We have to move past the idea that we can just install an app and assume the developers have handled the security for us. Every connection we make to our business is a potential opening. The convenience of the plugin is real, but so is the vulnerability it introduces. The platforms provide the foundation, and the apps provide the scale. You can outsource your operations, your marketing, and your compliance, but you can never, ever outsource your security.
For an independent e-commerce store, the hardest part isn't making the sale, it's keeping the revenue. Behind the storefronts, merchants are fighting a constant, invisible drain on their finances. It starts with friendly fraud. A customer receives their order, then contacts their bank to claim the charge was unauthorized or the package never arrived. Because the initial purchase used a valid card and a real identity, these transactions bypass standard cybersecurity filters. When a dispute is filed, the merchant loses the physical inventory and the original sale. On top of that, the payment processor imposes a punitive chargeback fee, often $15 or more. Factoring in the hours spent digging through tracking logs to fight the claim, the administrative cost can quickly outweigh the value of the goods sold. Managing these cases manually has become nearly impossible for small teams. To protect their margins from being eroded by fraudulent disputes, store owners turn to automated defense. Apps like Disputifyer offer a solution: software that detects suspicious orders in real time and automatically cancels them before they can turn into a chargeback. To function, these apps require more than just a view of the store's data. They require write permissions to the backend. These permissions grant the software power to act as the merchant, altering inventory, editing records, and issuing refunds. Once authorized, the app manages financial flow without manual oversight. No secondary verification is required to move money. By delegating this authority to gain efficiency, the merchant inherits the security profile of the developer. Every error in the app's code is now a direct vulnerability in the merchant's financial architecture. On January 9, 2026, a specific coding error turned that delegated authority into a liability. It wasn't a breach of a secure server. It was a mistake in how the application's code was bundled. The developers included a high-privilege Shopify API access token directly within the client-side JavaScript of the app. Client-side code is the part of an app that runs in a user's web browser. It is public by design. Anyone can right-click and inspect the page to see the plain text underneath. By placing the access token there, the app's authorization was visible to anyone looking for it. This diagram shows the result. An attacker didn't need to steal a password. They simply copied the token from the public browser and used it to send commands directly to the store's refund endpoint. The security of thousands of stores now rested on a piece of text that had been left in public view. Using the stolen token, the attacker deployed a high-performance script. It didn't process refunds individually, it automated them, triggering thousands of transactions across multiple stores in seconds. Shopify systems processed these requests immediately. To the platform, the commands appeared legitimate because they were signed with a valid, authorized access token. The impact was instantaneous. Across the network, merchant account balances were wiped out as millions of dollars were returned to customers before the store owners even realized their data had been exposed. Merchants watched their dashboards as their entire month's revenue vanished. Because they had given the app the power to move money autonomously, they had no built-in mechanism to intercept the script as it began to liquidate their business. The exact tool designed to prevent financial loss had become the most efficient way to achieve it. The developer quickly patched the leak and pledged to reimburse every merchant who lost money. For the app itself, the immediate crisis was over, but for the merchants, a second wave of damage was starting. A sudden, massive spike in refunds is a primary trigger for the fraud monitoring systems at processors like Stripe and Shopify payments. These algorithms don't account for third-party hacks. Detecting a mathematical anomaly, a 1,000% refund spike,
the system automatically locks the account. This created a secondary freeze. Legitimate payouts were trapped, and cash flow was cut off by the very security systems meant to protect them. Many businesses survived the theft, only to be paralyzed by the automated response of their own payment processor. Merchants attempting to appeal the freeze were met with automated support replies. For weeks, their businesses were left in a state of administrative limbo, unable to pay suppliers or fulfill new orders. This incident revealed a shift in e-commerce risk. Beyond the theft of customer records, the primary vulnerability for modern merchants is now the hijacking of their transaction authority. This has forced a move toward a human-in-the-loop architecture. In this setup, an app can still detect fraud and flag a transaction, but the final refund must pass through a manual approval gateway before the money is moved. Store owners are now beginning to audit their app integrations, stripping away write permissions for any tool that doesn't strictly require them to function. When one plugin can serve 40,000 merchants, a single developer's oversight becomes a point of failure for an entire ecosystem. The convenience of total automation is only as secure as the code that controls it.